Hello, everybody, and welcome back to TopDraw. Yes, I know we've taken a bit of a break, but do understand, not my choice. I wanted to make certain we nailed this show for you properly, and the best way for me to do that was to invite on to be a permanent host on the show, somebody who really needs no introduction, but should probably introduce themselves anyway, and that would be Marsh.
Fear me. I mean, hi.
Well, that's definitely one way to go about it. How about this? Some people have watched our previous episodes. I'm going to tell you now, this is Top Draw V2. So this is going to be changing. We'll get into all the changes that are coming up. We'll get into the news and everything that goes with it. But tell people a little bit about your history when it comes to trading card games and why it is that I basically picked on you, besides the fact that you are
Right.
awesome and are a marshmallow.
I am a tasty, delicious, squishy marshmallow. Um, I am from Australia, and I've been playing games, mostly MMOs and TCGs, for as long as I can remember. Um, Probably longer. And I started out with Magic the Gathering as a TCG, and went quite well in that. I was first in the DCI rankings in Australia for over a year, and I remained in the top 10 for several years after that. I've got several GP and Grand Prix and Pro Tour top 8s under my belt. Um, Generally put up good ratings no matter where I go for TCGs in general. Not much else really to speak about. I play
it's
occasional
it's
MMOs.
it's one of those. Tell me about yourself. Well, let me put my ego on. Now, that's actually one of the
Yes.
reasons I picked you. You don't have an ego.
Oh, I have a massive ego. It just doesn't come across online, right?
Ah, the secret. And that is basically what's going on. I have picked somebody who has a different accent than all the other hosts. So, not the Scottish accent, not the American accent, not the British accents that you are used to, but someone from Australia who is.
Very multicultural here.
Yes, absolutely. That is kind of the point. I mean, in an online society, why should we limit ourselves? Check out Campfire. Shameless plug. Now, like I said, we are changing things up here. Obviously, as you can see by the picture, Marsh hasn't gotten his camera sorted yet. Give it time. But I'm not about to deny you guys the awesomeness of knowledge just because technology caused by Achua, check out Cosmotronic, shameless plug, is interfering with the interwebs. However, I wanted to make certain that when we started Top Draw up again, that we did it real justice. I mean, it's very difficult, and some could state that it's incredibly boring to just sit there and talk about TCGs. My belief, in all honesty, is that it's not, and that there is so much information out there, but trying to enter into playing TCGs, whether it's online or in a tabletop, it's got barriers that you have to climb and you have to really want it. And I think in some cases that's kind of a good thing because it saves you money. But in other cases it's really bad because if you've got friends who are playing or you happen to meet someone in your online community who's like, "Hey, we should really check out this card game," and you're like, "I have no clue what you're on about." You're not going to really understand some of the terms they use, etc. Basically, I wanted to make certain that we lowered the barrier of entry for playing trading card games online, at least, because there is a difference. And Marsh, I want you to explain to people what is the difference between playing a TCG in person versus playing online.
Oh, jeez. So playing a TCG in person is a totally different experience to playing online. In person, you've got the very social aspect of it to start off with. You can actually see your opponent. You can see when they draw that top deck how excited they are, and how they're really depressed when they draw something that's not helpful at all. Um, Plus, you've got all the sort of barriers to entry are very different online as they are in real life. In real life, you can borrow cards from friends. You can go to your local card store, and the person who's helping out there or the person who runs it can give you advice. They can tell you what decks you should pick up, what cards are useless, what cards are good, what you should be playing, all that sort of stuff. There's a large sort of social player base that can help you. Whereas online, it's a lot of the time it's very isolated, because it's online. Like you're sitting at your computer, you don't have that sort of that's very physical social interaction. While there is social interaction in some of these TCGs, then it's not as explicit as the ones in real life. And so the way you get your information is from stuff like Reddit, or playing and losing, and going through all that, which can turn people off of playing online, because no one likes to play a card game and just continuously lose because they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, there's a definite psychological difference between playing an MMO or even an online game like Counter-Strike. When you start to get into things that are strategy-based and involve cards, I mean, even looking at poker, the ability to read people's body language is just as much of the game as it is the cards themselves that you are picking up. Now, you kind of lose that when you start to play online. But this is not to say it's a bad thing. The areas that I tend to get frustrated with is learning strategies where I don't die every single time. And I'm going to partially blame that on the fact that I've never really had the ability to sit down for months at a time growing up and say, hey guys, let's figure this out. When I played Magic in person, it was, this deck seemed really cool to me. I liked it. I played it. I did relatively well at it, but I didn't have a social circle around it because I was more interested in what comic books were coming out that week, and I was just sort of playing Magic to pass the time.
As you do.
Sneaky face. But anyway, when it comes to playing online, you have to have a certain kind of competitive streak to you, because you want to do better. You want to go up against people. You want to, as was pointed out in our DPS show on Monday, you want to have glorious battles where your skill is seen. But at the same time, I like the games from Magic, like Two-Headed Giants, where I and a friend go verse somebody and their friend. I like having those kinds of battles because I like having the interaction of my friends. I like teamwork. But it does sort of seem like a lot of TCGs are very much so solo oriented, and that could turn some people off. So
it's true, but the way people derive their fun is very different. Like, I have friends that will play Hearthstone. I actually have a friend in particular who's just had twins, and
congratulations to your friend.
Yeah, and she plays Hearthstone a whole lot, but all she does is play against the AI because she doesn't have time to play against players and so forth and so on. So for certain people, not having the social aspect there is okay for them.
I have to agree. I have some friends who only play AI, whether it's Hearthstone or whether it's Magic or Soulforge. That's all they do is play the AI. And then I have others who will hound you and hound you and hound you until they play you, and then they defeat you, and then they smile. And then
I have a feeling this might be Misby you're talking about.
Actually, no. As much as I joke, and yes, there will be a show where I do go head-to-head with Mizpa and Hearthstone. That is not over. It's just, as everyone knows, Mizpa has been working on building the MMOBuff office, and as such, that's kind of got to take a priority. So there will be a head-to-head, and I will beat up Mizpa in Hearthstone, mainly because I have the luxury of TopDraw and Marsh at my disposal weekly now. But yes, Mizpa's not that bad. He's actually very kind about things in his radio vampire DJ voice kind of way. But yeah. So basically what we're going to be doing within this show is we are going to start out by helping to break the barrier down. This means we're going to be looking at various card games. We're going to be looking at all of the online ones. We're purposely sticking with online because that's what MMOBuff is about. We are about the online experience. But we're also about being analytical. And of all games out there, honestly, trading card games do require a bit of analysis.
I feel that's slightly an understatement.
Yeah, and so my finger is just these tiny little scooch, scooch, scooch. Yes, just a little bit of analysis. And even if you have the understanding and years of one particular TCG behind you, it doesn't always prepare you for another TCG's strategies.
No, it never could.
No. And what we want to do is we want to break the barrier. We're going to look at some of the games. We're going to look at how they do tutorials. We're going to look at terminology that's important. So yes, we are going to be building up our lexicon again. And if there's any particular TCG you want us to look at in specific in depth and see if we like it, dislike it, if we have any points we want to get across better, if maybe you want tips or pointers, I can always assign homework to our gorgeous Marshmellow. I just hear this little growl. Don't make me do it. We could always
have enough homework.
This is true. But yes, so what we're going to do is for our very, very first show is we're going to sink our teeth into something that I have been wanting to play for a while. I have not had time. I am purposely using this as an excuse to play the game. Not gonna lie. And I was very pleased to learn that Marsh has a bit of knowledge and skill with this. So, yay!
Woo!
You want to take a moment and introduce the game that we're going to be looking at?
Sure, hopefully I've got this one right. So the game we're looking at today is Might and Magic Duel of Champions, which is, how to put it? It plays very much as a cross between Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone, I suppose. It's
a cross between them.
Yes, it has has a set board and a very limited amount of things you can do in a turn, but it also uses a very varied resource system between a form of mana and then 3 different forms of resource: might, magic, and I can't remember for the life of me the last one. Legacy, I think it is. And
well, considering this is might and magic, it's kind of good that you're using might and magic as resources. Just saying.
One would hope so. That's why I remembered them, right?
Mm.
No, it uses a lot of different types of resources, and it also has a very, unlike Hearthstone, and much more akin to Magic, in fact, has a very large card base,
right,
in which you can draw from. In my opinion, it does update a little bit too quickly. Just as one set comes out, they're already, previewing the next set. But on a whole, it's, the system that they use, XP and gold, to get packs, is very good for how fast it updates. So that's basically the game. It works very similar. It has creatures that you play and attack with, and spells that you use.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Well, what we're looking at right now on the screen is actually the very start of Might and Magic Duel of Champions. In particular, do you know how to play this game? No. Kind of a thing. Now, one of the things that Marsh and I were talking about before we actually, nailed down how we really wanted to make TopDraw special for everybody is some games, especially online, don't even come with a tutorial if you're playing a TCG. Others have a tutorial and it's crap. Others have tutorials and they're exceptional. And others have tutorials and they actually start nailing a bit of the lexicon and terminology that is used cross games. And I think that's kind of interesting because in the end, what we're trying to do, like I said, is lower the barrier of entry for a game. So what we're going to do, time limited, is we're going to start going through this. Now, you were telling me that this has something like 20 different tutorials to walk you through?
Yes, it starts off in what they call campaign mode, which is a whole bunch of different scenarios in which to test your mettle in. So you get a very basic deck. I think you select the deck after the first set of tutorials. So you get a very basic deck to start with, and it runs you through the very simple parts of it, and then you sort of get a little bit more rope as you beat levels.
Okay. Woohoo, exciting. So, do I know the rules of this game? No. So I'm going to go ahead and select now. So, welcome to the Duel of Champions boot camp. This kind of reminds me a little bit of the troll boot camp some of my hosts want to send me on to teach me how to troll. But anyway, here you will learn the basic rules of the game. Let's begin. Okay. Your army is always to the left side of the battleground. So, I basically control the left. and my opponent is on the right. Which is interesting because most TCGs that I have played online actually have your deck right in front of you.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that before till you pointed it out. Yeah, normally your deck's
Like
sort
dead
of
bang in your face.
on the bottom. Yeah, yeah. Your
So-
cards are sort of beneath the screen on the vertical axis.
Yes. Just little things you notice. So my army is always going to be on the left instead of in front of me. In each duel, both players have a hero who must be defended at all cost. So this is my hero, that is their hero. Something tells me I'm going to fall in love with the artwork because just looking at her, she looks a little bit comic book style, and I am a huge fan of comic books. Anyway. Currently, I have an air elemental and a griffin on the battlefield.
Yeah, this is where my first gripe comes up. Try scrolling over your air elemental and your griffin.
I couldn't. Nothing showed up. However, my opponent has 2 ghouls. During the action phase of my turn, each of your creatures on the battleground can either move or attack. So in a way, this is a little bit like Soulforge with the different lanes, and you can actually move them, although some cards you actually have to have the mobility ability to move across the lanes. So you kind of get this as well.
Yes. Some creatures are restricted into where you can put them as well. So currently you have 2 flyers, so they can go anywhere.
Okay. So during the action phase of my turn, each of my creatures on the battleground can either move or attack. Tip: most creatures can only attack enemy creatures who are in the same row. So again, this is sort of like Soulforge's swim lane kind of concept.
Yeah.
Left click on the air elemental. Tap on iPad to select it. I'm not playing on an iPad. So I am left clicking on him. So I move really, really close to my screen here. Ow. And I whack the mic. Sorry, guys. I have no clue what any of that stuff means other than the fact that it's a creature magic flyer. But now I can select it to attack the ghoul. Yay. The ghoul's health points were reduced to 0 by the attack, causing it to die and enter the opponent's graveyard. So there is actually a graveyard in this. Soulforge doesn't quite have a graveyard. And Magic has graveyards. Hearthstone has graveyards. Except in Hearthstone, you can't recover anything from your graveyard.
Which is annoying, but yes.
It's interesting. It does kind of keep things going, but it does remove a certain level of complexity. So if the ghoul is not blocked, it will... Yeah. If an enemy ghoul is not blocked, it will deal its attack damage directly to your hero. You can move your creatures in front of enemy creatures to block their attacks. Again, this is a little bit like Soulforge. You either block the incoming damage, or you take the damage.
Yep.
So it's not like in Magic where I could say, I'm going to attack you.
No, yes, you very much assign where your creatures are going to attack in this game.
Interesting. You can move your creatures in front of enemies to block their attacks, which they want me to do with my griffin, which is a flying creature.
I'd assume as much.
Yes, now move my griffin into the same row as the enemy ghoul and block it. So each creature you have on the battleground can only perform 1 action each turn. After you have performed every action you can, you must pass the turn to your opponent. Now I have to ask, you've played this game. Sometimes when I'm presented with a tutorial and they say you only can do this with your cards, etc., I then find that there are cards that modify that. Are there actually cards or spells or anything in the game that you can actually apply to give a creature more than 1 action per turn, per round?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's a couple of creatures that can move and attack.
Okay.
And there's also creatures that once they get attacked, they move to an available square.
Okay, so in a way, you can't quite necessarily say you're going to take 2 attacks this turn, but you do have things that allow more than 1 action, such as move, attack, move, or block, move, or move, block, things like that. Okay. So, select end turn button to end my turn. Now I have to ask, because this is something that is inherent in quite a few card games, Can I just press enter to end my turn? Or spacebar?
I don't know. I've never tried. I always press enter.
Maybe it's because I'm in the tutorial.
Maybe.
Now, your opponent will now launch their attack. Come at me, sis. The ghoul is attacking my griffin for 2 damage. Now this says choose card to attack or choose battleground destination. Okay, so what you can do is attack before you put any cards down, which is actually, in a way,
yes,
kind of
there's
helpful.
no phase system in this. This is your turn. These are all the things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose any order you want to do them in. There's no specific sort of attack phase or something.
Okay, so basically, Hearthstone, Soulforge, my brain just fried.
It's
Varia.
got little bits from a lot of games. Like you've got, sort of the Yu-Gi-Oh positional things.
Well, my point is, it's kind of interesting because, in Magic, even on Magic Online, Duels of the Planeswalker, blah, 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 you still have phases in which you can play and do various things in. Yet, it seems to be one of the biggest problems and barriers to getting people into playing is understanding when you can use certain abilities and spells, and you've got 5 phases per your 1 round or your turn in this 1 round, and yet you can make this do expansive. It gets really complicated. It's not just take your action.
Magic the Gathering is definitely the granddaddy of complicated phase turns. And when you add stuff like the stack on top of it and stuff like that, it's just
Oh, there you go. You've heard it here first. Not really, but Okay. So, since my griffin did not die from the attack, it will deal its retaliation damage. I'm assuming you're going to tell me which part is my retaliation?
I think it does. If it doesn't, I will.
Well, it says the ghouls receive 1 retaliation damage from the griffin, so I'm going to assume that's the number in the diamond.
Yeah. So, the top one in the sort of, crosshairs is its attack. Then the one in the diamond is its retaliation. So that's if it gets attacked and doesn't die, it will deal that much to whatever attacked it. Mm-hmm. And the last one is its health.
Interesting. So all cards have the ability to have retaliation. You don't actually have to apply, say, a buff to cause retaliation or strike back.
Some cards don't have retaliation at all, just as some cards don't have attack. So,
well, I only say I only say that because some games there is no retaliation at all unless you put a buff on it using some other card or resource or what have you. Cool. So, my opponent has no creatures to block my air elemental, which means it can now attack the enemy hero directly. Does this mean it's my turn?
I don't know. I think it will pass turn to you when you press enter.
Yeah, okay. So, basically what's occurring... What's occurring? It's a really bad accent for a show. Sorry. But basically what's happening is, as with most games, your goal is to kill your opponent. Your opponent's avatar really is what it comes down to. So what I'm going to do... It's
not always as easy as this.
Yeah. No, I don't think it is. I mean, I'm seeing parts of the board that we haven't even explored yet. So this is going to attack that. And that's obviously going to win me the game because it's kind of simple. Now, to me, the very first tutorial is telling you win condition. It is explaining to you the basics of attack and defense. The very basics, because nothing is ever that simple in a trading card game.
Oh, good lord, no. This game has so much extra stuff that we haven't even looked at yet.
Right. So, first encounter that we have done taught us win condition and taught us the basics of attacking and defending. What I don't like about this is I don't know what numbers are my attack and my defense to start. They should have actually had like a little arrow that says, you're going to retaliate. See this number? This is your retaliation. Or you're going to be attacked for this much, but this is your health. You'll be okay. They didn't point that out to you in the cards. So I guess that was the gripe that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so for this very first one, as I said, it's very much the introductory, this is where creatures go sort of stuff, but it is missing a lot of the this is your health, this is your opponent's health. certain stuff that seems sort of intuitive to people that already play card games, is the sort of stuff that you're supposed to be pointing out in these situations. Like, if you're a brand new player that's never played a TCG before, you have absolutely no idea what's going on at this point. You've just gone, well then, I guess I won. Thanks. What happens now?
Absolutely. Well, let's click continue and see what they teach us next. And I noticed I got a friend request in the middle of that. Was that you?
I may have sent that about 20 minutes ago.
Cool. Well, I will accept you. Yay. Okay, so we're now into the next tutorial. Your opponent is the starting player for this duel. How is that decided, by the way? Is that random?
Yeah, it's 50-50. Although I always tend to be the starting player, which annoys the hell out of me.
Why? Is there some reason?
All right, so
actually, this is where we can get into this. What's better, starting first or going second?
Depends on what deck you're playing.
Really?
That's a bit of a cop-out answer. There's benefits and disadvantages to going first and second. So when going first, you start with 1 mana, but you're also the first person to be able to increase one of your attributes, so your might, your magic, or your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas going second, your only advantage is that you're the first player to start with. You get the extra mana, while you also get to have your extra might, magic, or legacy. So it's basically making up for the fact that whoever goes first gets to attack first, which means whoever goes second gets to put out bigger creatures first.
Okay, interesting. So again, deck can have an impact, because if you play a heavy creature deck, it's probably
so if you play sort of like an aggro-orientated deck, you want to go first because you get to put stuff out faster. Whereas, if you go second and you're playing a control deck, it's even better because you get to do more control-y stuff, and your opponent's going to have more stuff on the board.
Right. Yay! We're learning stuff. And we will go further into detail. If you want to know more definition-wise, let us know in the chat. What we're doing, because of the fact that we're playing these games, we're going to be paying a little bit of attention to the chat, but not much. We'll collect the chat at the end of the show and bring it into the next show, because it gets a little complicated if, Let's just go with that. Okay.
Master of explanations.
So, now we're moving on to tutorial number 2. So your opponent is the starting player for this duel, which we've just discussed can have its advantages and disadvantages. To play a card from your hand, you must be able to pay its resource cost. So is this sort of
this is your
the mana? Okay.
Yeah.
Your opponent has 1 available resource, allowing her to play a ghoul this turn. I want to see more. Let me zoom in. Fine. Tip. Most creatures cannot attack on the same turn they're deployed into the battleground. Okay. Is there actually hastes for some creatures? I mean, is there a term for that? Is it haste?
It's not haste. I will endeavor to find it, and will inform you in a minute. My card collection isn't that big here. I will find one.
Okay, so they basically have res sickness, which is old school terminology from Magic, really, isn't it? Res sickness?
Yeah, it's res sickness just means something can't attack the turn it's played.
Right. And might I add, that term was also brought into MMOs, because anyone who plays an MMO who has res sickness knows what the heck we're talking about. So, when your opponent ends their turn, the supply phase of your turn will begin. Okay. At the start of your supply phase, your resources are refilled and your resource maximum increases by 1. So this is a little bit like the mana in Hearthstone.
Yes.
Every turn you get more. Now, does this mean that if I'm on turn 20, I have the ability to have 20 mana? Or is there a limit?
It caps out at 10.
Okay, so it caps out at 10. And I start off with 2 mana, and you drill it down, and you actually get more. I'm assuming because of the way that trading card games function usually, there are decks that can actually impact your opponent's mana or your own.
There's cards that can impact your own mana. There's acceleration cards, but I've yet to see one that destroys mana of your opponent.
Or limits the mana of your opponent. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't
It's
have
sort of
that
a
out
bit
there,
anti-fun.
there's the idea.
I'm sure they're working on it.
Starvation
And
decks.
the haste mechanic for this is called charge.
Charge!
Oh, I think we've heard that somewhere before, haven't we?
No, never. Anyway, okay, so now that we have done the supply phase, we will then draw a card from my deck and move to an action phase. Okay? Tip. During your action phase, you can perform actions with any cards that have a green glow around them. So
This is very beginner-friendly sort of stuff.
Okay, so now I get to learn about my hero.
Yeah, so anything with a green thing around it is something that you can still do.
Green means go.
So don't get fooled by this. Sometimes you don't want to do stuff, but in this case, I'm pretty sure you want to increase your might. It's Destiny, not Legacy. Apparently, I'm good at this game.
It ends in a Y.
That's it.
So, increasing your hero's might, magic, and destiny levels will allow you to play more powerful cards from your hand. That's good.
So cards don't just have a mana cost. Their cost is also might and whatnot.
Magic and destiny.
If you look at the cards, if you look at the cards that you have in your hand, you've got a Griffin that costs 2 mana and 2 might.
Oh, so that's that little thing down there that is just a little hard to see, but that's the little thing there. And then this one has...
the sprites cost might and magic.
And magic. Okay, so that's what the little blue bottle means, and destiny is obviously purple. Yeah. Yay, destiny! All right, so let's increase my might. I'm now able to play a Griffin from my hand. That seems a little OP, but I will happily play it. It costs 2 mana to play. And obviously the 2 might, which we were just talking about.
Yep.
Now, this is now we learn about what these different numbers mean. So the reticle at the top is the attack. We now know that that's the retaliation. And then underneath that, we're pretty certain that's health. So now we want to select the battleground position in front of the ghoul to protect myself from the ghoul.
Yep.
Griffins cannot attack on the turn that they're deployed, so you need to pass the turn to my opponent. Sad face. So that went through really, really quick. But basically what I think just occurred is they got their supply phase. They then played a ghoul. I can't tell whether they buffed themselves up because they don't tell you. But all I can see down here is that they deployed the wretched ghoul and they attacked my griffin with their ghoul. So the duel is now in my hands. Let's defeat the enemy. Considering the fact that they're only give me the same cards over and over and over.
I believe you get an endless supply of sprites at this point.
Really?
If you can't do this one on your own, Pseudo, I think we might have to reconsider your ability to do this cast.
Uh-oh. Okay. I will see what I can do. Now that costs 2 mana, so I need to bump my mana up. Not mana, magic. Get the terminology right. That's step 1. Step 1 in a TCG, understand your terminology and use it at the right time.
Yeah, because we have such a good track record at this point with that.
Yes,
It's our
Destiny, legacy.
It's our legacy.
It's a legacy of our mana. All right, so I'm going to increase this, which should allow me to play this. But it's not. Oh, it's because I read it wrong. It needs 3 might to do it. See?
It needs 3 might.
But it was so tiny, and I couldn't tell.
Pseudo.
I shouldn't be doing these casts, apparently. Well, basically...
So you can still attack at least.
Yeah. Beat that up. Yay. Whoops.
Look at this way. At least you have 20 HP.
Yeah. how not to play this game. Let's increase that so that I can actually play this card here. But it doesn't really need to be played because I can just kill her with that.
Yeah, this is a bit noob-proof.
A bit! As we've just witnessed the noob in action. As I take the funny noob pose. Wait, should the funny noob pose? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. Anyway. Okay. It only took...
Your funny noob pose is distressing.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Battleground has grown to full size with 8 positions where you can deploy creatures. Now, this to me is interesting because now I, as someone who has been playing various online TCGs for a while now, thinks that if someone comes down lane number 2 and I've got something in the front and something in the back, it should have to go through both. I learn now whether they do that in this game.
So they have to go through both unless they have an ability, which I will find for you now, because it's been a long time since I've played this. But there's certain creatures that mostly end up in what I call the white deck that will charge through both lines of your creatures.
Why do you call it the white deck?
Because all the little symbols are white and everything has like a white background.
Okay. All right. I just didn't know whether there's, like, with Magic the Gathering, you've got the red, the green, the black, the blue.
So
is there kind of like that within this game?
Yeah, so there's different types. You've got Inferno, Haven, Stronghold, Academy, Neutral, Necropolis, and Sanctuary creatures and cards.
Is it wrong that I like the sound of anything Necro?
I
playing
play the
with the
Necro
dead.
deck. It's good fun.
What is it, an aggro deck?
No, it's more control-y.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll get to that. All stuff in time. So this is the front line, and this is my back line. All creatures fall into one of 3 subtypes: melee, shooter, or flyer. So there are shooters in this game, which is kind of cool. The subtype determines where you can deploy a creature on the battleground and how that creature attacks. Okay. Select the crossbowmen. Okay. The crossbow... I could have made this a little larger. The crossbowman is a shooter, which means that he can only be deployed in the back row. Okay. Immune to retaliation. That's kind of nice. So,
yeah, I think all shooters have immunity to retaliation because you're shooting from the back row, nothing's going to be able to come up and whack you.
Unlike Civ.
If that makes sense. It's more of a thematic choice, yeah.
Right. So tip, most shooters will have an immune to retaliation ability. This means they will never receive retaliation damage when they attack. Deploy my crossbowmen to the back line. Before ending your turn, don't forget to use your hero ability. Now, level up my might so I can play a griffin on the next turn. So basically, they're trying to teach you plan ahead.
Yeah.
Now, melee creatures can only be deployed in the front line and can only attack enemies that are directly in front of them. So they can't attack shooters.
Yes and no. There's an ability called Attack Anywhere, which does basically what it says. Lets you attack anywhere. For a better
How funny is
explanation.
that? How fun is that? Who would have known?
All
Shake
right.
eyes. Okay, so you can defend your shooter creatures from flyer and melee attacks by placing another creature in front of them, which is why they wanted us to place this griffin. Flyer creatures can be deployed anywhere. Like melee creatures, they can only attack things that are directly in front of them. So we're going to deploy this here to protect him. What I want to do, though, they want me to attack. I want to see what this card is that's in the background, because it got deployed so bloody quickly. But anyway, selecting my crossbowmen to attack. Shooter creatures can attack enemies in the front or the back lines. Yay. Attack the enemy skeleton on the back line. Okay. Tip, before ending your turn, don't forget to level up your hero's might so that you can play the Radiant Glory. So we're back to Wisping. Now win this duel and prove your worth. Let's see if I've learned from the previous battle where I actually buy the right thing.
Oh, good lord, this is going to end in disaster.
It's going to end in tears. And end our turn. So they attacked rangey-wise. We've got some crazy stuff going on, and it's moving very quickly, but it's kind of cool. Right.
Some of the animations are quite nice for this. Alright, so you have minimal things left to do now.
Well, see, to me, they wanted me to play the Radiant Glory, so just for sake of following tutorials like you're supposed to, I'm going to play a Radiant Glory right there. Now, I have the ability to attack from behind, which makes me feel like a rogue, but that's basically what it is with the back.
But they do it from behind.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I can... If I use this guy to get rid of this guy, shouldn't I be able to fly over this guy? Just attack and kill her?
So there is a... No matter what way you play this, both of those will die. But there is a best way to play this and a slightly worse way to play this. Let's see if we can figure that out.
Oh! We get to talk strategy and we get to find out just how silly and how skilled I am. Okay.
How silly is Pseudo?
Pseudo is silly. Okay. Now, based on at least, like I said, the knowledge that I have in this particular case, this guy has res sickness, so there's nothing I can do about that. Now, can the people in the back actually attack the hero?
No.
So they
you
must
still have
attack
to kill
one
the
of these.
creatures that are in front of the row. Yes.
Okay. So I don't have attack anywhere, which means I can't do anything. I have to basically break through the formation and the lines. No matter which, these both have 1 health, so it really makes a difference to which order I attack them in. However, this one has 0 retaliation, which means I would actually protect my griffin upon attacking it. So if I use this guy and... Wait, because he's a ranged dude too, so... I'm all confused about retaliation now.
See, I was confused about retaliation to start with as well.
Because the
so
reality
basically,
is...
at this point...
Go ahead.
At this point, the ghoul has retaliation and the shooter doesn't. So which one should you shoot with your shooter?
The one with retaliation, because the shooter is immune to retaliation.
Yes.
I mean, that's, to me, the most obvious. So we'll do that. Bye! And then this guy, I will attack that. And that's my turn. Oh, I should remember to buy something with my stuff.
I forget to do it all the time.
You know what? Just for fun, I am going to increase my magic so that I have at least 2, because I don't know what's in my deck.
I bet you it's a lot of sprites.
I guess we'll find out. Oh no. It's a sprite. Who would have thought? In this particular case, considering the fact that I know that sprites are coming up, I'm basically just going to draw a card, just so I spend that turn. Oh, wow. Well, you look at that. Another sprite. Whatever should I do?
I don't know.
Actually, this is kind of cool. I'm just going to do that. Get rid of that. Now, this attacks for 2. This attacks for 1, which means I am going to need another sprite on the board. And I attack you. And I attack you. And now I just wait. You're increasing your might, and you're not playing anything.
Because it's noob-proof.
Right, noob-proof. Okay, which means it's pseudo-proof.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, there's something to be said for easy tutorials. They do get a bit harder. I actually lost one of my tutorial games. I lost one of the very last ones.
Ooh, so we're going to have to find out what'll happen when I get there. I may need your help.
Yeah.
But this is why I called on you, Marsh, because you are skilled and you explain well. Which is barrier number 1 crossed. Find a friend who knows what they're talking about and who can explain it in terms that you understand.
I wouldn't go as far as to say I know what I'm talking about with this game, but we'll fly with that.
I thought you were going to say I wouldn't go so far as saying finding a friend.
Oh, we could say that too.
Oh, now I'm gonna cry. Okay.
No.
I'm just going to shoot it. The one thing, and voila.
At this
Victory!
point, what's the best looking death that you can deal?
That actually makes me think that when you're playing an MMO, you play DPS, don't you?
I play whatever needs to be played to, kill bosses.
If you had your pick between tank, DPS, and healer, which one would it be?
Depends on what game. It's either DPS or healer.
Interesting. I only say that because in our DPS show, we had discussed a certain trait for DPS, and you just summed it up. But, okay.
The egomaniacal, narcissistic personality of DPS.
I will have you know, we dispelled that myth and actually pointed out that one of the top traits that a DPS should have is modesty. And we prove it. Actually, I should say Aiko and Aussie prove it, but
Fair enough.
That's that. Check it. MMO Buff on YouTube. Or just go to MMOBuff.TV and see it. But anyway, I think this is a good place for us to currently stop. The only reason why I say this is because we could go on forever, and we'll be back next week. We may tackle more of these. You guys will have to let us know if you want to see us go through all of these tutorials. I personally would like to, because the tutorials either make or break a game. And they either make or break the barrier harder. So far, all this has done is confuse me slightly because of the way that they do things, but I think when it comes to the use of retaliation and the way that it works, you have to learn the minute facets of a game. Otherwise, all TCGs are exactly the same, and that would get boring to me. So we'll see if I discover retaliation and understand it better in the future. But let's do this instead. Let me pull it back to just you and me. So my question to you, we've gone through technically 3 tutorials. We've learned the win condition. We've learned resources, and we have learned more of the board, I guess you could say, understanding frontline and backline.
The layout of cards, how, the resource system works and all that sort of stuff, yeah.
And we've learned a little bit of terminology, and we've also discovered that, to start off with, the most frustrating thing in these tutorials is you cannot look closer at the cards to see everything you want to see. So if you make the wrong judgment call like I did, thinking it was extra magic I needed instead of might, you've boned yourself. Thank goodness these tutorials are idiot-proof. Probably best to say they're pseudo-proof because, that's the reality of it.
That will be the new thing.
Pseudo-proof
tutorials.
I have no problem with that.
Game companies will be coming up to you going, I need you to pseudo-proof our game.
That would be fun, because I will tell you point blank, if I walk in and I pretend I don't know anything, I literally don't know anything. If I've never, ever seen a game before, I tend to take the tutorial as gospel. But having played so many TCGs, that's why I kept saying to you, so they say you can never do this, but there is obviously a way to do it, because there's a card out there that changes it, because fundamental gameplay. I mean, I've seen it happen in multiple games. That's why I challenged this particular tutorial.
Complexity is the core.
Exactly. Okay. So, you guys are going to have to definitely let us know what games you want us to look at. You're going to need to let us know what terms you want us to break into. We're going to do our best, like I said, to break the barrier down, and we're going to do that while we play games. And there will be times where both Marsh and I will go head-to-head, and we'll discuss why we're making the decisions we're doing so that you guys can laugh at both of us. It's pretty much simple.
Well, I wouldn't go both of us.
No, they'll laugh at you because you're beating the crap out of me, and they'll laugh at me because it's not pseudo-proof going up against Marsh.
Not so much, no.
No. But that's how you do it. You get better by playing against people who are better than you. It's the only way to do it. So, on that note, I just want to say, Marsh, thank you very much for joining me. If there is anything you want to say to anybody before we disappear?
No, not really. You'll be hearing a lot more from me over the coming weeks, I hope.
Oh yeah, and I've invited Marsh to actually write little bits and pieces as well for the site. See if Marsh takes me up on that particular one. But yeah.
Fear for the sanctity of your knowledge.
Fear for the sanctity of your knowledge. Fear for the sanctity of my knowledge. But anyway, welcome back, everyone, to Top Drawer within the new year in V2, where I have the awesome Marsh. And yeah, I will speak with you guys during Cosmotronic on Friday. Remember, Friday is Cosmotronic. I believe we will have Kai Dream joining us again. Monday, we have our interview with Brad McQuaid and team from Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. We have a special guest that I'm still trying to make certain he joins for the campfire. I'm trying to get my timing right because, you know, time. It's on my side.
Fair enough.
And yes, in case you can't tell, folks, this is pre-recorded on purpose because timing with Australia and the UK kind of is awkward. But
it's incredibly awkward.
It is. I'm like, okay, we're recording this on this day, so I need to remember this. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining. Please, I will be literally in the chat. I have been in the chat talking with you guys. Give me questions and things that you want us to answer. Do you want us to explain certain terms to you? Do you want us to break something down? Have you run across a certain situation that's occurred in a trading card game and you want to understand why certain things went a certain way? Use us as soundboards. In fact, basically bring it to me so that I can use Marsh as your soundboard and try and solve the problems of the world.
Yes, we need your questions, guys. Don't be afraid to send them in.
Yeah.
You know,
no question is stupid. I'm going
to
tell you that right now. No question is stupid.
Well, that's it. We'd love to be able to have a little section where we answer all the burning questions you guys have.
Yes. Such as, what is your favorite drink, Marsh? Non-alcoholic.
Are you
going to say mojitos?
Delicious. I was going to say mojitos.
Mojitos and coffee.
Delicious caffeinated beverages.
Well, there you go.
They make me more human than I should be.
Good to know. But yes, I will speak with you all very soon, and thank you, and get in touch with us by going to the MMOBuff.TV website, click on the Contact Us, and click on TopDraw, and you can send us questions in that way. And yes, we will speak soon. Say bye-bye, Marsh.
Goodbye, everybody.